Hello and welcome back to Mark Clemens Postcards. As usual, we will take a look at what postcards sold this past week on eBay and delve into more of Mark's personal collection, all the while being mesmerized by Mark's witty and knowledgeable dialogue. Without further ado, I present Mark himself.
Oh my God. I was ran over by the eBay bus. First of all, let me say thank you to my twin brother Reginald. I appreciate that introduction. It's inexplicable why he has a British accent and I don't. But anyway, back to eBay. I literally was hit by a bus this week. If you saw last week's What Sold video, you know I did over $1,400 in sales, which was very good for me. But this week was not even back to normal. It was way below normal. As you can see, I only did $347.89. That consisted of 47 items sold. That was 76% down from last week. And we had an average sale price of $7.40, which was down 58% from last week. If we get down here and look at it day by day, you'll see that Sunday was $26. Just rounding these numbers off. Monday was $46. Tuesday was $63. Now you say, well, they are climbing up. Yes, they are. Wednesday was $76. But then Thursday we dropped back down to $30. Friday we went to $68. And Saturday we went to $36. So not even a $100 sale day this week. And that's why I feel like I was hit by a bus. But anyway, let's take a look at what made up the few sales that I did have. First of all, we see a view in Big Run, Pennsylvania. This is a divided back card, postally used in 1913. That was listed for $7.95 and I took an offer of $7. Here is the steamer landing at Thousand Island Park in New York. Here you can see the boat here at the dock. Another divided back card. This was postally used in 1911. That sold for $5.95. This is the Belle Isle Picnic Island. Here's the island here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Another divided back card, postally used in 1911. That was listed originally for $7.95 and I took an offer of $6 on that one. Here's my only auction of the week. This is a view in Junction, Texas. This is a bird's eye view. Junction is in Kimball County, Texas. A divided back card, postally used in 1916. And I received one bid for that listing or starting price of $19.95. That was my best sale of the week. Next, we have a buyer bought 3 cards. First of all, we have the junction of the Lehigh and Delaware Rivers in Easton, PA. That's a linen card, postally used. We have the waterfall at White Oak Canyon along the Skyline Drive in Virginia, another linen card that was unused. And lastly, just a generic greeting from Cinemahoning, PA, with a generic scene here, a linen card. It was postally used. So all three cards he made offers of $4, and I accepted all three offers. That wasn't too far off the listing price. So that's a total of $12 for those three sales. Next up, we have an embroidered card. This is a pretty woman in colorful dress. She is from Portugal. I think that might be where the card was also manufactured. Yes, I believe it was. It is postally used in 1967, and that sold for a listing price of $5.95. Then we have St. John's Protectory in Lackawanna, New York. This is a white border card, nice and clean, postally unused. That sold for $5.95. Next up, we have a card from my hometown here in Greensburg. This is a multi-view chrome card. This card is pretty new. You can see here the date. It was published in 1987. So a fairly modern card, although it is standard postcard size. Has 9 different scenes around Greensburg here. That sold for $4.95. Here is the horse racing track in New Orleans, Louisiana. Looks like a white border card. It's postally unused. That sold for $7.95. Here is the Simpsons' new fireproof stables in Cuba, New York. A divided back card, postmarked 1909. That was listed for $7.95. I took an offer of $7 on that. Here's a leather card. It says patriotic theme, Stars and Stripes Forever. Up here it is imprinted Cambridge Springs, PA. That's where it was sent from. And it was postally used in 1907. That sold for $5.95. Here is the lighthouse at the inlet in Dunkirk, New York. Another white border card, postally unused, nice clean card. This card sold for $5.95, and that sold within a couple hours of me listing it. Here is a view of the Ocean View House in Pigeon Cove, Massachusetts. Divided back card, postally used in 1913. That sold for the listing price of $7.95. Here we have some nice automobile advertising. This is a 1963 Buick Special, and I mean not just any ordinary car. This is special. This is the deluxe 4-door sedan. Chrome era card, of course, 1963. Here on the back you see some information here about the dealer who sent this card out. That typically makes these cars a little bit more desirable to collectors. That sold for $5.95. Another buyer who bought 2 cards. First up is the Anderson Motel in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, an unused linen card. The second view is the same motel, Anderson's Motel in Johnstown, a multi-view chrome card. So we have the same motel, 2 different era views. One sold for $7.95, the other for $5.95, for a total of $13.90. Here we have the Stapleton Block in Billings, Montana. And here you see some old horse-drawn wagons there. This card was postally used. I can't make out the year on that, but I'm sure it's early 1900s. Nice view there. That sold for $5.95. Then we have the general offices of the Cleveland Cliffs Iron Company in Ishpeming, Michigan. A divided back card, postally used 1910. The front here has a faint postal mark on it and a couple of little spots, but still an interesting view. That sold for $7.95. Here is the main buildings at Wilson College in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. This is an undivided back card, as you can see, and it was not postally used. This card also sold quickly after listing it. I had it listed for $7.95, but I took an offer of $6.50. By this time point in the week, I was happy to get any sale, so I was certainly open to offers. I did take a lot of offers this week on lower price cards. Here we have the Spoonwood Pond and the Newben-Usett Lake in Nelson, New Hampshire. If you look close, you can see a body of water back here and one here. I'm not sure which one's the pond and which one's the lake, but nonetheless, it's a real photo postcard. The stamp box doesn't really help us there as far as dating it, but that sold for $7.95. And lastly, for this week's selection of cards, we have Al's Restaurant in Hardyville, South Carolina. This is a nice linen roadside view. Here's an interior view with booths and tables. And the exterior view, Al also had some gas pumps there, so he could take care of you in many ways. Nice linen roadside card to close out the week, and that sold for $9.95. So, all in all, not a great week, but I'm thankful for whatever sales we get. As I've said many times before, eBay can be like a roller coaster. It's up and down days, but what matters is over the long haul, and over the long haul my sales are pretty consistent month to month and year to year, so I'll just have to brush off the tire marks and get back at it, and we'll hope for better sales next week. What do we look at today? Let's do some more Greensburg. Anyway, it's time to take a look at some more postcards from my personal collection. This time, we're going to go back to Greensburg and look at some of those. First up, we have one here. This is the junction of West Newton Avenue and Pittsburgh Street. This is in primarily residential section. And you can see how the road kind of winds here. And you may also notice that the street is brick. And there are trolley tracks on the street. So that's what things used to look like back in the early 1900s. Next up, we have the nurses' home at Westmoreland County Hospital. This building is directly across the street from Westmoreland Hospital, and this building still exists today, but currently it is it's associated with the hospital, but it contains the mental health services. The nurses no longer stay there. Apparently, nurses used to live right near the hospital, and that was a thing they did. They don't do that anymore. Moving on, this is the athletic field at Greensburg High School. Actually, this athletic field isn't at Greensburg High School because the high school was a few blocks away from here. But this field is known as Offutt Field, and it's where the Greensburg High School team played their football games. I showed you in a previous video when we were looking at some Greensburg cards a real photo of this field when it was flooded in 1935. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was a very similar view, only this one here, fortunately, is not underwater. Next up, we have what would have been at the time of this picture a residential home, I believe a I believe a doctor lived here at one time, but it has since become the YWCA. Here you can see it back when it was still a residence, and here's an old vintage automobile coming out of the driveway. You can see they have a large portico over here at the side of the house. That was pretty common in some of the larger homes in Greensburg. A lot of them had porticos where you could pull in and get out of the weather in order to get in or out of the house. Here we have a view on West Otterman Street. Again, this is a divided back card. This is an older view, very early 1900s. We are looking more or less, West Otterman as a clue, huh, Mark? But we're looking west. And down here on the next block, you can only see like the corner of the building is a large hotel. I think I may have shown you a picture of that hotel. If not, it will be coming up on one of my videos. But that was the Hotel Wrap, and it is no longer there. This corner is now occupied by an annex to the courthouse. Here we have a view on Underwood Avenue. This is actually on Pittsburgh Street, where it intersects with Underwood Avenue. This is a residential area that Underwood is coming out from. Here you can see some children standing on the corner, and here's another child on a bicycle. Again, divided back view, early 1900s. Again, you see the brick streets, very common in Greensburg. I remember as a child, when riding around town, many of the streets were just brick at that time. Here we have the residence of Thomas Lynch. Thomas Lynch was a very prominent person in Greensburg. There's more than one thing named after him. There's Lynch Field, and he also owned another house in Greensburg that is now the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg campus, and they used that house as an administrative office. So at one time, the Lynches were very prominent, wealthy people in Greensburg. Just as a side note, as you look at this house, we're kind of looking at it from Pittsburgh Street, looking kind of up at it. You'll see at the main entrance here, there's a very large two-story roofed area with large columns. I had the opportunity, I used to be in the construction business. We did primarily built new homes and did remodeling, but we had done some work for the president of the insurance company whose offices were located in here. And he had us come over here and also do some work, and we replaced these large white columns. And believe me, those were some large, heavy columns. We took measurements of those, had some new ones manufactured at a local mill, and then we, one by one, replaced those columns. So that was an interesting job, and I enjoyed working on that, being that this is a pretty historic structure in Greensburg. And no, the roof has not fallen down since then. Here is another view on Main Street. I know I've shown you several views on Main Street, but as the eras change, so does the view a little bit. This is a white border card, so kind of a 20s era look here, and you can tell that by these older vehicles. And also, this is at a time when you could park on the street. There is very little parking allowed now on Main Street. There are a few areas where there's a few spaces, but for the most part, it's expanded to 2 lanes in both directions, and so you cannot park on the street. Again, looks like the still brick street, got the trolley tracks right down the center. And just as a locator, here's the courthouse over here on the left side of the street. But you can also see some signage. Here you see Royers, which was a department store. Here's a sign for a cafe. And the G.C. Murphy, the 5 and 10, was over here. This view here is a real photo view, and this is a group of workmen at the new pattern shop building that was being constructed at the Kelly and Jones Company, which is on South Main Street in Greensburg, or was on South Main Street. So these were some of the workers that were working on that building. On the back of the card, someone has taped a piece of paper, and it lists the name of each one of these workers, and it identifies this building and what they were doing here. Otherwise, this would be one of those photos where only history would know what was going on here. But fortunately, somebody had the foresight to do that. Kelly and Jones was a large industrial manufacturer of valves and things for industrial type use, and it was a very large employer in the Greensburg, South Greensburg area for many, many years, but it closed in the early 90s, and 90% of the buildings were demolished, and we now have things like McDonald's and Burger King and Dunkin' Donuts, and really valuable things like that. So it just shows our progress as a community. Next up, we have a view on West Pittsburgh Street. This is coming down. The picture or the card recently, I showed you this one, the Lynch Mansion. The street is running down this way, and this is just maybe a half a block further down the street. The Lynch Mansion would be over here on the right, further up the street. But this is at the corner of Westminster Avenue right here. And this church, I showed you again in an earlier video, this church in a different view. And my grandparents live right next door to that on Westminster Avenue, and I spent a lot of time there as a child. But this is looking towards Main Street. Main Street is way up here. Again, the courthouse is here on the left side of the street. That's always our kind of our landmark to orient ourselves here. A lot of these houses have been removed, torn down, replaced with other buildings. Here we have the Greensburg Centennial Parade. This was in 1907, I believe, but this is a view on Main Street looking north, and you can see the parade going on in the middle of the street. Lots of people lining the sidewalks for this event. Flags are hanging out everywhere. And just as a point of interest, if you look way up here towards the top of the card, just below this lettering here, you'll see a gentleman sitting on top of a telephone pole, and he certainly has got the best vantage view for this parade. I give him credit. He's also got a lot of nerve to be up there like that, but nonetheless, there he is, and he's watching the parade. Doesn't seem like it would be a very comfortable perch, but there he is anyway. Next up, we have a view looking at the courthouse, looking upwards. Main Street would be up here on the right, and this would be Pennsylvania Avenue here. And this card's a little confusing to me. It appears to be they are constructing the courthouse that we have today, because we did have an older courthouse on this spot that was damaged in a fire, and they tore it down, built a new, larger courthouse. But there's all kind of rubble around the building, and I'm not quite sure why there would be rubble piled up against the side of a new building. It almost looks like a building that's being demolished. But when I compare this visible portion of the building to the existing courthouse, that's exactly what it looks like. So I'm not sure what the purpose of all this is. But you can also see some things that look like not cranes, but things maybe used to hoist up masonry blocks or bricks or whatever they're using here. And there is some men standing up on top. So it looks like a construction site. It also looks like a demolition site. So I'm going to say it's a construction site until further notice. All right, this is the view of Academy Hill, which is this area up here, looking from the courthouse dome. So up on top of the courthouse dome, that's why we have such a high vantage point. This would be Main Street running up here, and the high school was up here on the right, and the Catholic Church is up here on the left side of the street. And this area up here at the top of the hill, top of Main Street, was known as Academy Hill. I believe that's because there were several schools right in that immediate area, but I'm not sure. But that is a view looking up at that area from on top of the courthouse dome. This is I believe this is an undivided back card, so it's a pretty early view. Next, we have another view of a parade. This is a real photo card, and I don't know what this parade is. I don't have a date. The back of the card just says Greensburg PA, and so I'll have to take their word on that. If you look up here, there's some signs on this building. I don't know if I can get any closer than that. Let me zoom up, try to pan over here. There's some cool signs here. You see Smoke the Natural Leaf Cigar, 5 cents. Got somebody laying out the window here watching the parade. Here's Snowboy something, whatever Snowboy is. Here's another sign here with some gentlemen on it. Here's King, looks like King Solomon something. So lots of interesting signs on this house or this building here. I don't know exactly what these streets are, what street they're going down, but it is an interesting view. I can have spent some time just magnifying and looking at what's going on there. I wish I knew a little bit more about the exact date and what the purpose of this parade was, but I don't. Next up, we have the Elks Club in Greensburg, and this is at the intersection of Otterman and Maple Avenue. This is on the corner. Looking directly at it from the opposite corner, the YMCA would be directly behind us. And again, if you look up here, there's the courthouse dome. So that kind of gives you a reference point to where you are. Main Street is up here, the next block up. And this building does still exist today. This is a real photo view. And lastly for today, we're looking at, it says, a view of the drugstore the morning of explosion. And here's the drugstore. It says Miller's Drugstore. You can see that there. Miller's Drugstore. Here's the Rexall store. And it definitely appears that the windows are missing. There's a little bit of debris on the street there. And over here, let me zoom in a little bit more. Here's some window frames, possibly. They look like they may even come out of this building here next door, which I don't know what that is, and there's some more debris on the street there. There's some people standing around looking at that. So apparently, oh look here, I'm sorry, I didn't see that up there. Now look up here. See, this says the hotel wrap. I mentioned that earlier. This building is on the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue, or was on Pennsylvania Avenue and Otterman Street. So this would be Otterman Street here. And we are looking at Miller's Drugstore after the explosion. And none of these buildings are here anymore. So I hope you found that interesting. That's some more views of my hometown, and we'll be coming back to look at some more of those. But next time we'll be taking a look at a different topic. So thank you for watching this.
Well, that's all I have for you today. So if you've enjoyed watching this video, please give me a like. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, would you please do so? That helps me to grow and to reach more people who are interested in postcards. And if you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section. I'd appreciate any input you have, anything you like, anything you don't like, any suggestions you might have for something else I could do or show. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.